контактов с БРИКС.
The 16th BRICS summit announces its member countries are deeply concerned about the negative impact of illegal sanctions on the global economy.
Выдержать баланс и не допустить снижения эффективности БРИКС.
Israeli occupation forces target the center of Tyre, Lebanon's fifth largest city. And the World Health Organization says that intense bombardments on Gaza have forced the postponement of a polio vaccination campaign. It's 4 p.m. Cairo local time and you are now watching Q News. I'm Henny Saif and let's start our bulletin with the latest developments in the 16th BRICS summit.
Соответствующие подтверждения получены уже от более 3 десятков государств, включая наших ближайших соседей и партнеров.
يعقد هذا المنتدى في وقت يشهد العالم فيه تحديات وأزمات دولية متعاقبة وغير مسبوقة.
БРИКС уже играет заметную роль в глобальной экономике не только сегодняшнего.
The 16th BRICS summit has announced that the BRICS countries are deeply concerned about the negative impact of illegal sanctions on the global economy. The declaration also stated that BRICS leaders are deeply concerned about the ongoing conflicts in the Middle East and North Africa and are considering mediation proposals to find a peaceful solution to the conflict in Ukraine.
При этом нас сплачивают общие ценности и мировоззрение. Справедливо будет сказать, что БРИКС включает в себя единомышленников, суверенные страны, представляющие разные континенты, модели развития, религии, и взаимное уважение. Цивилизованно игнорировать.
The plenary session of BRICS summit has begun in Kazan with the participation of leaders and representatives from member countries. Kazan is hosting the 16th BRICS summit over 3 days with over 30 countries participating. The main theme of the summit is strengthening multilateralism for just global development and security. Countries joined BRICS at the beginning of this year. This year, BRICS has set 3 priorities: politics and security, economic and financial cooperation, and humanitarian and cultural exchanges.
Повысить его роль в мировых делах, в решении насущных глобальных и региональных проблем. Всячески содействовали углублению многополярия в политике и безопасности, экономике и финансах, культурных и гуманитарных контактах. И, естественно, делали все, чтобы это ключевое мероприятие российского председательства, проходящего под девизом укрепление многосторонности для справедливого глобального развития и безопасности. Подчеркнув, Россия с большой ответственностью подошла к организации нашей совместной деятельности в рамках объединения в текущем году. Мы стремились к тому, чтобы упрочить.
Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has participated in the first plenary session of the 16th BRICS summit. President al-Sisi reiterated Egypt's support for enhancing consultation and coordination between BRICS countries and intensifying cooperation to address common international challenges. Those challenges include climate change, access to soft financing, food security, increasing rates of poverty and hunger, and the widening digital and knowledge gap. Russian President Vladimir Putin has told BRICS members that more than 30 countries have expressed a desire to join the bloc. Putin said the group would discuss its expansion at the meeting while keeping in mind the need to maintain efficiency. The forum was founded 15 years ago by Brazil, Russia, India, China, and has since expanded to include South Africa, Egypt, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates.
Справедливо будет сказать, что БРИКС включает в себя единомышленников.
In a recorded message, the Brazilian President Lula da Silva said his country looks forward to shaping a multipolar world. Lula added that the BRICS summit is focused on expanding trade among member countries. He also said that it aims to enhance economic growth for member states while seeking to eliminate racist policies.
O BRICS é ator incontornável no e seu futuro.
China's President Xi Jinping has urged BRICS countries to deepen financial and economic cooperation, affirming that the need to reform international financial architecture is becoming more urgent. Xi, speaking at the BRICS summit in the Russian city of Kazan, called for a de-escalation in the Ukrainian conflict and for no further expansion of the battlefield. He also called for a ceasefire in Lebanon and Gaza.
为全面、公正、持久解决巴勒斯坦问题不懈努力。我们要建设创新金砖，做高质量发展的先行。
President of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, has called on all BRICS countries to make every effort to end the war in Gaza and Lebanon. In a speech to BRICS members, Pezeshkian also addressed the significant challenges facing the world today, particularly in the area of food security, and noted that the summit could pave the way for enhanced partnerships among emerging nations within the framework of global economic governance. He emphasized that BRICS has the potential to foster diverse development opportunities.
و شکوفاتر در دنیای پس از جنگ سرد هنوز فرصت تحقق پیدا نکرده و میل به سلطه‌گری و یکجانبه گرایی همچون آفتی کشنده
проекта международного транспортного коридора Север-Юг, строительство второго и третьего энергоблоков Бушер и, конечно, расширению экономических связей способствует подписанное в конце 2023 года соглашение о свободной торговле между Ираном и Евразийским экономическим союзом. Хорошо продвигается и культурно-гуманитарное сотрудничество. В июле этого года вступило в силу межправсоглашение об учреждении и деятельности культурных центров. А действующий с августа прошлого года безвизовый режим для организованных групп туристов стимулирует рост взаимного туристического обмена. На 2023 год рост 52%. Продолжим сегодня.
That was part of the session that included the negotiations between the Russian and Iranian presidents. And now for more analysis, I'll hand you over to Selma Fi'i in our newsroom. Selma.
Hello, thank you, Hani. And for further analysis on the first plenary session of the 16th BRICS Summit, we are joined from Cairo by Hanan Ramses. She's a financial markets expert. Welcome to Qnews. Can you hear me, Ms. Hanan? Tell me, Ms. Hanan, as the BRICS Summit is happening at the moment, and what are the main messages do you think the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has conveyed at the gathering happening at the moment?
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi sent lots of messages in relation to the investment inside Egypt. The most important items he discussed was that Egypt is the gate to Africa and there might be a cooperation between Egypt and many BRICS member states in the economic zones of Egypt. The investments can be done through the free trade agreement and COMESA. Through these agreements, Egypt would be the gate to Africa, and that Egypt has lots of advantages in the infrastructure that that enables Egypt to enter new developmental fields, including investment in ICT and AI. And these are the most important items for investments in the world. He also discussed the new energy, renewable energy, and nuclear energy, and the aspects of cooperation between Egypt and Russia in these fields. The president also tackled the economic crises in the whole world that affected Egypt adversely, represented in the reduction of Suez Canal revenues and how the Egyptian state uses its resources to move from the economy of crises to the economy of achievements, and how the local currency of Egypt has been highly harmed due to many practices, including the increase of dollar exchange rate in front of the Egyptian pound entering the BRICS. This may restrict the power of dollar in the upcoming period, which will serve Egypt's interests.
Tell me, Ms. Hanan, just going back again, I just have another question. But how do you think the BRICS group achieve financial settlements in local currencies in practice in the coming period, as called for by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in his speech?
Of course, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said that there will be financial cooperation aspects and investment cooperation also between Egypt and BRICS Forum, because it's an economic forum that includes countries that represent 45% of the economic power worldwide and 28% of the trade power worldwide as well. He also said that BRICS Forum has many advantages, including the new development bank of BRICS, that Egypt can seek its assistance to continue the infrastructure projects in Egypt, in addition to the BRICS Investment Bank that would replace the International Monetary Fund in the upcoming period, because the fund required some economic reforms repeatedly that harmed the Egyptian economy in the current period. So there are horizons for investment and cooperation, which indicates the deep relations at the political, cultural, and diplomatic levels between Egypt and Russia and the rest of the BRICS member states, which will allow the exchange in the local currencies, and there will be a unified currency between the BRICS member states, which will serve the interests of several BRICS member states.
And Ms. Hanan, as you to Egypt as a new member, according to President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, but I would also like to ask you, to what extent can Gaza and Lebanon benefit from the BRICS countries on the political and economic levels?
Of course, the current crises in the region and the escalation in Gaza and Lebanon and the suffering of both peoples have been discussed. Of course, we know Egypt's stance, Emirates' stance, and Russia's stance regarding the Palestinian cause and the two-state solution, as well as their stance towards Lebanon and the attempt to calm things down in this region, because the whole region is affected by these practices. Of course, the plans for reconstruction have been discussed as well after solving many political conflicts peacefully in the time being, which will open horizons for investments by the new development bank of BRICS, because BRICS Forum is interested of fairness-based peace. And this forum, the member states and the countries participating in this forum will play an effective role in solving the issues in the Middle East.
And that was Hanan Ramses joining us on Financial Markets. Thank you, Ms. Hanan. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we go back to you, Hani.
Thank you, Selma. And moving on with our news now, Israeli occupation forces have targeted the center of Tyr, Lebanon's fifth largest city. Now, Israel hit the UNESCO World Heritage Site with at least one airstrike in less than an hour after evacuation threats by the occupation forces. The strike looked absolutely vast, taking out a number of buildings. Tens of thousands of people have already fled Tyr in recent weeks. Sirens have sounded in Tel Aviv as Israeli occupation forces shot down 2 rockets fired from Lebanon. The incident occurred during U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit to the city, causing residents to rush to shelters for safety. Plumes of smoke have risen over the Beirut skyline. The Israeli occupation forces continued their aggression on several towns in southern Lebanon and the Bekaa amid widespread destruction of buildings, facilities and infrastructure. Israeli occupation jets have hit what they said were weapons storage and manufacturing facilities, as well as command centers of Hezbollah in Dahya overnight. The monochrome footage released by the occupation forces showed whole buildings collapsing following airstrikes in the Beirut's southern suburb. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said Israel should be looking to bring home the remaining detainees and end the fighting. Before leaving for Riyadh on the next stage of his visit to the Middle East, Blinken repeated that the United States rejected any Israeli occupation of Gaza. He also said that he had been assured by Netanyahu that Israel had no such plans.
It's eliminated its senior leadership, including most recently Yahya Sinwar. This has come at the cost, great cost, to Palestinian civilians in Gaza.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has met with Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud in Riyadh. Blinken pushed on for a halt to fighting between Israel and Hamas, as well as between Israel and Hezbollah. Both ministers have also reviewed the bilateral ties.
In an effort to end the war in Gaza, secure the release of detainees, and alleviate Palestinian suffering, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has visited Israel and will continue his Middle East tour until October 25th. As he departed for Saudi Arabia, Blinken emphasized that the U.S. rejects any Israeli occupation of Gaza, noting that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu assured him that Israel has no such plans, despite internal party pressures to allow settlers to return. Blinken urged Israel to use the opportunity presented by the assassination of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar to pursue a long-term resolution to the conflict and ensure adequate humanitarian supplies reach those in dire need. Israel's ongoing assault has devastated Gaza, displacing most of the population into temporary shelters. As of October 5th, the Israeli occupation army has intensified its attacks in northern Gaza amid a suffocating siege, leaving tens of thousands without food and water. Mediation efforts by Egypt, the US, and Qatar for a ceasefire and prisoner swap have stalled due to Netanyahu's refusal to halt the conflict. The situation has escalated tensions in the region, with over 42,700 reported deaths, mostly among women and children. Blinken's current push for ceasefires in Gaza and Lebanon comes ahead of a presidential election that could reshape U.S. policy in the region.
China's Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian has urged a quick de-escalation of the Middle East situation at a press briefing in Beijing.
中方对当前中东局势的动荡不断升级深感担忧，反对侵犯黎巴嫩的主权、安全和领土完整的行为，反对任何激化矛盾导致地区局势升级的举动。
German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock has sat down for talks in Beirut with Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri. Baerbock is in Lebanon in diplomatic push to stop the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah, as Israel carried out airstrikes on a large historic Lebanese port city of Tyre on Wednesday. The Israeli occupation forces have said that they intercepted 2 drones that were launched from the east and crossed into Israel's waters in the area of Eilat. An Iraqi faction said in 2 statements that it attacked Eilat twice with drones on Wednesday, adding that it struck vital targets there. Lufthansa has extended the suspension of its flights to the flagship airline group said flights to Tehran will be suspended up to January 31st, 2025, while those to Beirut are suspended up to and including February 28th of 2025.